Hey there, everybody. I hope you're having a blessed day. So I am going to be addressing a comment by moderator of the Young Jurks channel, who I think Mike needs to just get in touch with this moderator and put a stop to, lies. So the other day, I went on to Young Jurks chat, and I've been there before, and I know there's many people who have seen me on his channel. In fact, we've even interacted with each other on his chat. He's probably hidden me from his channel, so you can't see my comments in his chats anymore. So, yeah, you probably should take note of that effort to lie, because his moderator came to my channel today and said that they've never seen me in their chat before, which, of course, I know I'm preaching to the choir. People have seen me over there. I've interacted with other people, so he's only making himself look silly to say such things. But then made a very ridiculous comment. I'm just like, oh boy, you opened the door. Just keep in mind, yesterday I had viewers, his viewers, not people that I know, because if you go to any one of my videos, you will see that I interact with anybody. Like, I have a very small network, and we all communicate, and we're just like a community, you know? I'm not, like, I'm retired, been for many years, medically retired from my injury at war, and so I'm not doing YouTube for income. I'm monetized because I love controlling what ads go on my videos, but you know, I will show you some things about my channel, because he's saying that I need to grow my channel on my own content. Okay. Well, first of all, this is him a year ago. Okay. This is him a year ago. And this is him a year ago. And he has nothing of what many people would consider your own content. When you use words like your own content, and this, you know, I guess some people could disagree with this. I will show you what your own content is. And it's not other people's death and other people's drama and things, you know, that you're just taking pictures of other people and their lives and their drama, and you're just commenting on it. Like, if you want to consider that your own content, okay, but I think some people would disagree with you, but I guess that's just a subject we can all agree to disagree, whatever. This is what I consider my own content. This is the kind of stuff that I do, right? So this is who I am. This is all of my, now this is like one video that I did on the Karen Reed case from last year, but you know, the legal stuff is a very small part of my channel, but I will also let you know that wrong about this. I'm sure Mike will let me know if I'm incorrect, but I don't know that he's law school educated like I am. I'm not a licensed attorney because I am medically retired, and I told the law school that I attended and before I applied that I have no intention of ever being an attorney, but I just want to do volunteer work, right? So yeah, that's my background, and I have legally fought in my own cases against injustice. I have won against former circuit judges who went into private practice. I won against them. So I'm saying that just because I know what legal relevance is when I brought up the mainstream media and their deceptive reporting, of which I will cover in just a minute. But back to my channel. It's all about my own content, except for a little bit about the Karen Reed case, which, by the way, do you see any revenue here? Okay, and the reason I don't have revenue is because I choose not to profit off of other people's tragedy, right? I choose not to do that. And so that's my choice. So I'm not trying to make money off of anything that you and I, or whatever you've been discussing. I simply went to Young Jurks' channel because he was doing something about the state trooper, and I wanted to listen. And so somebody made a comment or something, and I mentioned the state trooper case, and his viewers, not mine, because I'm telling you now, like I said, despite the fact I have a lot of comments, I interact with my viewers. They have questions, they want to have, they want to have discussions, and that's who I am. I will, you know what I'm saying? I interact with them, and nowhere, anywhere, those people that were commenting are on my channel. They were his viewers. Now, maybe they watch my channel also and just don't comment, but no. Those were his viewers that invited me up and continue to invite me up. And so I think Mike should just apologize and say, you know what? I didn't realize that my viewers were inviting her up to talk about that specific thing. And if he had said, you know, if I just realized that that's what they were wanting her up there for, I would just said, no, I just prefer not to talk about that. And I'd been cool with that. And if you're afraid of the mainstream media, and that's why you continue to just deceptively report to your viewers that they're not doing anything, or, you know, basically deceptions by omissions, like they attacked Turtle Boy when they were not even respecting him as a journalist, calling him a blogger, calling him a culty, and saying all kinds of things about him, you know. What are you afraid of? Like, something, because maybe, you know, and people that came to me and made comments about you, I said, you know, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, even after the way he behaved so rudely yesterday. I just feel like maybe he just is clueless. But here's the thing. I think it's an important topic to have discussed. So maybe that's a good thing to come out of it, I hope. But if you continue with your insults, you know, I'm just going to keep breaking it down for you, you know. But do I need to break out federal cases that I have categorized through the years that can have the judges explain to you exactly what the mainstream media is doing right now? Is something that they can actually be held liable for in a court of law. And that is, okay, so this isn't the SPJ, in case people don't know, it's like not like some law, you know, that they can like be prosecuted for. But here is what judges use for analysis when it comes to the media industry. So any practice, whatever the standard practice is for whatever industry there is, say for example construction or sales, or, you know, whatever a lawsuit, when it sues a particular corporation in a particular field, what happens is they will evaluate whether or not they're operating outside what is the reasonable standard for their field. And this is what courts will use when they're evaluating whether or not the journalists are violating, you know, just their own code of ethics, their own like standard of what is accepted, you know. And not only what their standard is, but what the courts have ruled is that if you do, you can actually slander, defame, and libel somebody via the media by omission. It's called deception by omission. Because if you're misleading your audience, such as when they have Karen Reed conversations in their national mainstream media, not local media, mainstream media, like people across the United States of America sitting on their couches, you know, watching their TV, and they're watching NBC, ABC, AP News, all those mainstream media that they're hearing about the Karen Reed case, but they're not aware of anything going on in Massachusetts what the local news is covering. And so they're hearing about these people insulting Karen Reed supporters as cultists. Those words are being thrown out, and instead of like, they'll say, okay, well, we'll just throw out a tidbit bone to the defense and say, well, the defense is saying this, but they omit the fact that there's a multiple conspiracies of corruption in recent years, and one that's literally going on right at the time of the Karen Reed trial, such as what I have coined the golden treatment gate. That because the golden treatment was mentioned in the indictment, of which I read the entire thing. And they were in it. And by the way, that case is superficially discussed by the media, any media, because it's not just about state troopers, as Mike wants to basically dismiss. Oh, that's just a CDL case. What would they care about that? Okay. Well, if you're going to talk about a case, I think the responsible thing to do in your position is to at least read the case if you're going to discuss the case. Because in that particular case, if a good journalist, okay, which, by the way, I am the TNT News. That's a small portion of my channel, Trustworthy News Truth, because I will basically cover the things that the media is omitting. That's something I have done for a long time. okay? And if I see injustice, that's my thing. That is something that I may be in the middle of, a series on my channel, and if I see something corrupt going on, or if somebody's fixing to get fried in the electric chair, and there's, things about the case that needs to be advocated with, people or whatever, I'm going to jump on that, and I'm not going to monetize that, okay, because I don't consider that my own content, you see. But here's the thing. Mainstream media, in this particular case, and this is what I said when I was talking about the mainstream media, is not discussing with the Karen Read case. So they, for example, the Albert case, but he shut that down when I mentioned Dateline. Okay, if y'all go back and watch this video, he immediately shuts that down. Okay, y'all should look at that like side-eyed. But so basically, Alberts, everybody knows, ran up on Dateline just as soon as the verdict was read, and then played the victim, and then the guy's body language sitting there smiling and shaking his head up and down and using the word conspiracy theorist, and then totally sitting there letting that man run his mouth and say something ridiculous like, it's ridiculous, to say blah blah blah. And by the way, it's nothing personal against Turtlebot. I don't like being put in a box of all her supporters are Turtle Boy followers. Now that's just ridiculous, okay? Because there's millions of people that are quietly sitting on their couches or at their desk or whatever, and they're watching that trial. And they don't follow anybody on the internet, okay? And they may be some of the people that sent donations, and they're just watching with their own eyes and listening with their own ears, the stupid things. All I knew is I watched the pretrial hearings, I read the motions, and I listened to the defense, and before the defense had even gotten halfway through the testimony, when I learned that the judge had impounded the bite records so that they can basically suborn perjury, I knew then, this is corruption. Okay, by listening to both sides, and, I didn't need any person to expose anything to me. I saw a case in my news feed on YouTube, and I took interest to it, and it had nothing to do with any blogger or any YouTube channel. It was just me and the YouTube algorithm that brought that case to my face. But again, it's nothing personal against Turtle Boy. But then you have, these mainstream media are lying, because I call lying deception by omissions. When they have a case that's not just about CDL licenses, in that case they were maliciously texting how they're going to mess somebody up and make sure they flunk them and just basically take away their livelihood so they can't get their license that their business relies on because they did something that they did not like. Then you have people, friends and family and local businesses. That conspiracy was so thick and so big, it had way more to do with 6 state troopers. And not only that, but that is so relevant to the very theme of the Karen Read case that I will not, from here on, I will not sit back every single time the mainstream media discusses her case, if they're not discussing that corruption scandal and how friends and families conspired with the cops and troopers to falsify records and get illegal licenses. If they continue to say things like the idea of corruption is just ridiculous, if they can, as long as they keep saying those things and the media doesn't remind them of that case, I'm going to, myself and the army of people will continue to go to their websites and call them in check. And not only call them in check, I'll start whipping out the federal court cases that will show them how they can be liable if they continue, with against many defendants, they do this kind of thing, right? And in recent years, there have been some good successes against the media, but they do it so often that I think people just think that they're not doing anything wrong, right? So if you want to have a dialogue and you continue your mantra with that those were my viewers inviting me up into your, no, I didn't recognize those people. Maybe they watch my channel, but I'll just keep debunking you. And if you continue to say that the mainstream media is not hiding when they do these interviews and do coverage of Karen Read, or they don't have any responsibility to expose, and mention the recent scandals to be fair, then, well, you keep saying that, then I'll just keep proving you wrong, and I'll start breaking out the federal cases, okay? I will break out the rulings that will explain to your viewers how you're wrong. Do we really want to go there? Why don't you just humble yourself, Mike, and apologize and just say, you know what? I didn't know that my moderator invited you up. I didn't know what you were coming up to discuss. And if I knew, I would have said, I really don't want to talk about that. And I'd been cool with that. And if you don't want to talk about the mainstream media, you're not comfortable doing that, just say so. I'm cool with that too. But don't sit there and attack my integrity and then act like I don't know what I'm talking about. Because the more you sit there and defend this egregious mainstream media, the more I will continue to show how you're wrong. And for anybody that's listened to this, I can thank you for everybody that signed the petition that is now going to... Oh, by the way, Mike, what you didn't know, before I went to your live stream, I already had thousands of people sign the petition that agrees that the scandal, the Golden Treatment Gate scandal, has relevant factors and behaviors to the Karen Read case. Okay? Yes, it's very similar, and it looks very suspicious that one of the officers allegedly got double salary after she had false memories and recanted her testimony to the FBI. And that's new evidence because she just testified about it in June. And the Abby analysis, I want to say thank you very much. I really do appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for putting her on your stream. Like, I was very thankful for that. And I think other people should do that. But myself and other people are going to continue to call the mainstream media out. And if you don't have the courage to do that, or you don't have the interest to do that, that's fine. But don't sit there. And you can have your opinion all you want, okay? But don't sit there and tell me that I'm wrong. Because I will show you how I'm not.